Welcome to the Whole Life Healing Podcast. My name is Karla Cauldwell. I am your host. I am a nurse, a health coach, and a communication expert. And I find it really important to disclose that everything I talk about on the podcast is backed by science, full of soul, and extremely strategic. And everything I talk about, I do myself. I will never recommend that you do something I don't do for myself. My goal is to reach healers, helpers, and coaches who are ready to prioritize their own healing and role model healing to others. If that is you, welcome. I am so excited you are here. I am so excited to support your healing. And I want to thank you in advance for role modeling that healing to others. All right, today, I'm so excited about today's topic. Today's topic is all about rhythms, the hidden habits that are shaping your whole life. And rhythms is a new word for me. This week, I attended a class and I was blown away by the speaker. She called, instead of saying habits, she said rhythms. I don't know why that deeply connected to me, but it did. So I'm going to talk about rhythms. And in this context, rhythms are your habits. They are either contributing to your well-being or not. And I want to talk to you today about how do you assess what your rhythms are? How do you become intentional about adding rhythms that are helpful and contribute to your health and well-being? And how do you identify the ones that aren't and consciously stop doing those? So we're going to go over applying this idea of rhythms to the whole life healing assessment wheel, which is linked in the comments. It's yours, free. I love it. If you don't already have a way of assessing your whole life, I encourage you to use this wheel. I know that sounds intense, assessing your whole life. It's actually the 8 areas of your whole life, and it doesn't take that long. It can be as quick as 2 minutes, and then if you really need to think about things, 5. Okay. And then we're going to talk about what happens when you have life changes, because that is an important consideration when it comes to your rhythms. I have been looking at the whole life healing assessment wheel, which has 8 areas: finances, personal growth, movement, nutrition, relationships, manage stress, spirituality, rest, and sleep. You don't need to memorize those. You can just download the PDF of this assessment wheel. I have been assessing myself for many, many years. And sometimes I get not stuck, but I don't always know what to do to improve. And the speaker that this class I attended this week, she was speaking about looking at each area of our life in terms of rhythms. So, looking at an area and asking yourself, what are my rhythms in this area? If rhythms is sounding a little strange, just replace it with habits. What's going on in this area of my life? Positive habits, habits that are contributing to living my best, healthiest life possible, and the ones that aren't helpful. So in the past, I would assess myself and I would rate myself. If you've listened to any of my material, I'm always asking you to collect data from the most important place of all, you. There is something missing when we rate ourselves and ask how we can improve this area of our life. That's great. But the aha moment I had was that I can do even more by looking at my rhythms, looking at my habits, and being intentional about recognizing what is working and what isn't, and being proactive, adding more rhythms or habits if I need to, or removing habits and rhythms that are no longer serving me. Or maybe I just started doing them by default and I'm not even aware that they're not helping. Okay. So the goal is to wake up, to what your rhythms are, what are your habits, and to be cognizant of, are they supporting the life you want or not? So we have to start with this question that I ask a lot. Before we can even think about waking up to what is it that we're doing, what are these rhythms, what are these habits, we need to know our values and what matters most. So we always start there. What matters most to you? Get crystal clear on what matters to you. What are your values? So, for example, for me, what matters most to me is my family, building legacy. My values are, I want to live an honest life. I want to be honest with those who matter to me. I would like to be honest all across the board. And nature is very important to me. Being at peace, being alive and healthy, all of these are really important. I value those things tremendously. So that's the lens I'm going to look through. I'm going to look at the whole life healing assessment wheel through that lens, through the knowing that my family is what matters most to me, knowing that it's important for me to build legacy. Honesty is important. Being at peace is important. Being in nature is important. I didn't say this one, but this one's also important. Being really grateful for my life. Purpose, that's another one. Okay. So I think you get the idea. I really encourage you to get crystal clear on those things because it will help you tremendously in being proactive about what you add to your day. We're not going to go over every area on the assessment wheel, but I want to go over two areas. And I'm going to use myself as an example so you can get an idea of what are the rhythms in those areas and what might I do about this? What might I do with this information? Again, you can download the PDF for yourself, and I highly encourage that you use this. If you don't already have an assessment wheel you use, feel free to use this one. Okay, so for example, we're going to look at rest and sleep. That's one of the areas in whole life healing. It's an area that's very important to bringing balance, health, well-being, and happiness. And when I look at that area and I'm asking myself, what are my rhythms? What are my rhythms? What are my habits surrounding rest and sleep? Well, some of the helpful ones are, it's a rhythm of mine that when the alarm goes off, I get up. I don't wait. I don't press snooze. I get up, and that's very helpful. Another rhythm I have is that I prepare my things on work weeks and on weekends if I have an event. I prepare my things the night before. That is a very helpful rhythm to me because as I'm preparing the food I'm going to need, the things I'm going to need, it kind of just brings, um, it helps me feel at peace and I don't ruminate about those things when I go to bed. I shower before I go to bed, which I find very calming. Okay, now let's look at some of the rhythms that are not so helpful. The rhythms in this area that are not helpful are when I check my email. Sometimes I will check my email right before I go to bed. And that, as I was thinking about it, that is not helpful because sometimes I get stressed out, especially if I get an email from a teacher from my son's school, if I get a bill I didn't know about, it's just no bueno, no good. So I wrote that one down. I also wrote that a not helpful rhythm is when I've kind of made it a habit that right before I shower, while I'm waiting for the water to warm up, I look at my social media and I can't say that any good comes from that. My mind gets activated. It's stressful. So when I look at this area and I look at my rhythms, I definitely want to keep the positive ones. I decided when I did this assessment that it's not helpful to check email at night. So I need to create a different rhythm because I have to check email. That's important. So I decided that I would check my email in the morning. I have this little window of time in between one of my meetings. And so that's when I'm going to check. And social media, I don't think I'm going to declare a habit for that because I'd rather just not look at it, not make a plan to look at it, but I'm definitely not going to look at it at night within an hour of before I'm going to go to bed. Okay, so I hope you're seeing this is really different. Before, I would think about my sleep. How's my sleep? How can I improve it? Which is not wrong and it was helpful, but this is like a deeper layer. I'm looking at what are the rhythms, which ones are working, and which ones are not. And what am I going to do about it? Well, I'm absolutely going to keep the ones that are working. And as you can see, the ones that aren't helpful, one of them I rescheduled, and the other I decided I don't want to do this anymore. Okay. So that is an example of assessing an area and looking at the rhythms. I was so excited about this that I ended up dedicating, it took me like an hour to go through each one. I don't think it has to take you that long. I just was so excited about this concept of rhythms that I did a real deep dive to each of the 8 areas. And it was really illuminating. And it gave me a lot of clarity about the things that I'm doing well. I actually experienced, wow, that's really great that I do those things. And I also gained clarity from the things that aren't helping. There were some that I wasn't even aware I was doing. But when I asked myself, what is something that I do habitually? Because a rhythm, we're in this conversation, we're using it to mean our habits. So what am I doing that's become a habit that's not helping me in this area? It was so, oh my gosh, it was so good. Okay, The second thing that I really loved about this class I took this week was about making sure to consider life changes, both positive ones, negative ones, stressful ones, happy ones. Any life change can affect your rhythms. It can, if you are having, let's say you had a baby or you've started a new relationship, you moved in with someone, maybe like me, you have adult children leaving. That's a change. Or if you're changing your job or where you live, these are all life changes. And I want to invite you to keep that in the parking lot, like in your mind, to consider when you have a life change, to look at the rhythms it affects and to notice, do you need to add any positive rhythms? Has this change created some negative rhythms that you want to remove and replace with a positive? You want to consider those things. So I'm going to give an example. I'm going to look at movement. That's one of the areas of whole life healing. And the life change I'm going to use is one that happened to me this last year. I went from working at home to commuting to an office. And that was a change. And when it came to movement, there were some rhythms that were disrupted. And actually there were some positive rhythms that were added. So I'm going to go over all of that. One of the items is when I worked from home, I would walk my dog. Every morning I would take this 45-minute walk, and it helped to clear my head. I connected to nature. I improved my circulation. I felt fantastic by the time my workday started. And with the commute, I couldn't do that anymore. And I noticed that I was really down about being at the office. So I really had to work at replacing. I ended up getting up earlier and doing a shorter walk, a 15-minute walk, and doing some mindfulness, like a meditation and some movement at home. Not the same, but it was helpful, and it still helped me get that similar result of calm before work. Okay, on a positive note, when I go to the office, there's some things that prompt me to move more. Like I have to walk to the restroom's not just right there. So if I need to take a bio break, I have to walk, which is helpful because it meant that I'm walking away from my desk and I am taking a little mini break. And I increased my movement because I wouldn't use the bathroom on my floor. I would go down to the first floor. So now I'm going down 6 flights of stairs and coming up 6 flights of stairs. So I'm getting stronger. I have more cardio. That was a positive change. And it really felt good to have that rhythm. So that life change taught me that I need some kind of cardio strengthening. So on my days when I'm not in the office, I add the habit here of it's not the stairs, it's not the same, but I'll dance to 2 songs or more, which helps me get that cardio, helps me get that strength. I just want to share how it works both ways. My invitation to you is to download the PDF, or if you already have some sort of assessment wheel you use that. I invite you always to be clear on what matters most to you and what are your values. Write them down. What matters to you? What's important to you? What are things that you value? And from that lens, look at the assessment wheel. Go through each area and ask yourself, what are my rhythms? What are the rhythms I have? Habits. Rhythms is interchangeable with habits that are contributing to my well being, and which ones are not. Maybe they're doing the opposite. And the goal is just to be aware and present and to make a decision, an empowered decision. Instead of just doing these things mindlessly, we are choosing to do the things that support our health, and we are considering changing the ones that don't. You can do what I did, take a whole hour and go through the whole circle, or you can do one at a time. There's no rush on this. And how you'll know is, for me, it was an absolute delight to spend an hour on Saturday doing this. If that's how you feel, great, move forward, go for it. If it's starting to feel stressful, then just commit to doing one at a time. You could do one each day, you could do one each week. This is your life. You are the expert of you. It's important for you to accept and work with yourself, work with your life's demands, work with who you are, and do what's best for you. I really hope this was helpful. If so, are you willing to share it with someone you know, someone in your community? We are better together. And lastly, are you willing? Are you willing to look at each area of your life and look at the rhythms, the ones that are contributing to your wellness, the ones that aren't? And are you willing to consciously choose what it is you do each day? I am rooting for your success times 1,000, and I hope you have the best day ever. Thank you. Bye.